Welcome back everyone to Box, and finally that race is over. My God, what a snooze fest. But we're not here to complain, we are here to bring you some very, very entertaining Formula One content. And now I just want to preface this whole thing by, you might notice if you're not new here that I'm not holding anything in my hands. Story time. I'm using my camera's microphone. It's like you'll see it just here. There you go. So I'm sorry if it doesn't sound as crisp or as clear as usual. I'm hoping that it is still bearable. We have done an episode like this before, but basically my laptop had a glass of water spilled over it just yesterday, which means I have no ability to be able to use my audio interface and record with a microphone. As you can tell, I'm extremely happy that my laptop, which I got just less than 60 days ago, has been destroyed. That is why I'm sitting here with a big smile on my face. But
Mate, I'm sorry. I'm not laughing. It could happen to the best of us. But yeah, I spoke to you yesterday. You were a bit upset about it, rightly so.
While I was at home yesterday, I didn't speak much because sometimes it is better to just not say anything. But anyway, we're here, we're alive, I'm well, I'm fit, I'm healthy, and I live to tell the tale. Unfortunately, I lived long enough to have to watch that Monza Grand Prix, but before we dive into that, we are Box Podcast, powered by a Box Club, and they want us to let you know that you can get 30% off your Ultra subscription by using code BOXBOX if you do want to sign up to an annual subscription. I would recommend it. Box Club Ultra is unbelievable. It is also free though if you did just want to try the app out. It's not one of those annoying trial things either. You just get limited features, but the features are still great. So download it, check it out, and if you do decide you want to go ultra, then use code BOXBOXPOD. Anyway, wherever you're listening to us, do give us a 5-star rating. Even if the audio is a little bit shit from my end, I apologize. As I just explained, this is a one-off. If you're watching us on YouTube, it's nice to see you, and I'm glad that I can use both hands to wave at you like I never would do ordinarily. But do like, do comment, and do make sure you subscribe if you like what you watch. We are going to crack on because I'm sure there's a lot of Lando Norris fans here that want to hear all about what went on today.
Alright guys, welcome along to a brand new podcast. And yeah, like Luke said, I think, look, Lando fans don't generally like me anyway because they all think I've got an agenda against Lando. I don't. Let's just clarify that, okay? But today, like, do I start the podcast off by, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to do it anyway. Today, again, Daddy Zach Brown came out and supported Lando Norris and made sure that he got ahead of Oscar Piastri. I'm just going to put it out there that Oscar Piastri was robbed of a P2 today. And you guys can agree, you can disagree all you like, but that was robbery. That was. I mean, if that was anyone else who had that issue, they wouldn't have swapped places. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Luke, and I know we'll get into the other teams in the podcast, and yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
I think the situation is absolutely crazy. I cannot believe that in a title battle, they made Oscar Piastri give that position back to his title rival due to a slow pit stop. Now, I think the best part of all of this, Max Verstappen himself found it absolutely hilarious. And it is hilarious. I've spoken so highly of McLaren's team chemistry. And they're like, they really seem like a tight-knit unit and a family. But today, I felt they went a little bit too far. That is absolutely crazy. Come on, guys, this is racing at the highest level. These things happen. What we can't do is we can't just tell people to give positions back to teammates because someone had a slow stop. That is part of the game. That is part of the race. Now, for anyone who's going to come out and say, well, Lando did the exact same last year, I just want to say 2 different scenarios. Also, you can go back to that and hear me say, if I was Lando, I wouldn't have given that position back. The team fucked up. The team screwed Oscar, and then they made Lando give the place back, which I didn't think was very fair.
Also,
This one,
also,
different
can I just say-
circumstance, and ridiculous.
Also, can I just say, sorry to cut you off there, they weren't fighting for a championship last year. Lando
True.
was against Max. Oscar and Lando together as a combination were not fighting for a championship. I think it is absolutely ludicrous that we are still having to have this discussion that McLaren try and play nicey nice and go, they don't want to upset this person, they don't want to upset that person. It's racing, okay? Lando Norris was the one who said to his team, look, I'm going to finish P2 anyway, you know, pit Oscar first, that's fine, and I'll come in after. Lando Norris had that discussion over the radio. That's what they went with, because they were going to pit Lando first. These things happen, I understand, but Oscar should have finished P2 today, and he should have been leaving Monza with a 37-point gap in the championship, not coming away with a 31-point gap. I do think it's ludicrous, and it's getting to a point now where, look, Lando Norris got booed. Can we just say this, all right? I think people are starting to see that actually this favouritism towards Lando Norris is getting a bit ridiculous now. They're so desperate for Lando Norris to win a championship, they're throwing out all the stops to try and do it. If you're Oscar Piastri, you're sitting there going, like, do you guys even want me to win a championship here? Like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to, like, disqualify myself for the next 9 races and let Lando go off with it? I don't know. I just think it's utterly ridiculous. I have no agenda against Lando Norris because he drove brilliantly today. He deserved that P2. However, this is racing. And actually, we have to take this sport a bit seriously and go, do you know what? This thing's happened. Unfortunately, he finished P3. That wasn't because of Oscar. That wasn't because of Lando. That was because of an unfortunate event during the pit stops. We've got to stop actually going, oh, to make it fair, Oscar, give it back. It's got to stop, surely.
And I mean, can we just say that did Lando not... This is what they broadcast over the radio, so if this is incorrect, don't berate me. I'm saying this might not be factual. Did Lando not just say, shouldn't we let the other car pit first?
Yeah.
That had nothing to do with Charles Leclerc. That had absolutely nothing to do with... Do you think Lando gives a shit if Oscar Piastri is overtaken by Charles Leclerc? If anything,
he would want to,
Lando was probably praying that happened. So, and rightfully so, right? They're in a title battle. Lando was super unlucky last week. And if anyone pulls this bullshit Lando agenda card on either of us, well, maybe Matt, it's fair, but on me, I came out last week and said, I hope something happens to Oscar Piastri in a race that just levels it out a little bit, because that was super unlucky. And people talk about, I actually saw a few comments on this saying, oh, so you want Oscar to lose points? Well, what about Australia? That already happened to him. Oscar lost points because of a mistake. That was an error, a driver error that led to him losing points. As far as I'm concerned, that's on him. The Lando one was so unfortunate. But come on, guys, this was Oscar's P2. That is just the way of racing. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. And yeah, fair play. If this is the team dynamic and it's for the greater good of McLaren, fair enough. Who are we to argue? But do I agree with it? Absolutely not.
I'm gonna shout out one of my good friends, actually, Tom North, because he messaged me after, right, going, one person was robbed today, and that was Lando Norris. That P1 was his. I think that part he was joking. I said, and I did go back and said, if you believe that, you've lost it. And he went, yeah, fair. And he went, they ballsed up his stop, wanted to say sorry, so that's why they agreed. You know, he believed that was a good enough reason to swap positions back. And I was like, he goes, 2 long championships have been boring. We need a teammate championship battle for the ages. Because of what happened today doesn't mean that actually we manipulate it so we have a championship battle. Do you know what I mean? Like, Oscar Piastri is where he is because of what he's delivered so far this season. The other things that happen with Lando Norris, they're out of Oscar's control. But we can't keep manipulating things because we want a championship battle. Do you know what I mean? I know you last week you did say, you know, I'd be happy with a DNF for Oscar so we can bring the championship battle. But, like, come on, Oscar's driving brilliantly at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, no, I'm saying I want that because I want a teammate championship battle. I don't want McLaren, I don't want McLaren to just like turn his engine off one day. You know, I think it would be great for, you know, natural justice and not justice for Oscar, but justice for Lando, and to level out that playing field. I would hate for the title to be won on the fact that he had that DNF. That was all I was saying. I don't want people to manipulate the championship. And I don't think this was manipulating the championship. I know you have your reasons to believe that it was because, you know, of favoritism or whatever. That may or may not be the case. All I think is this does kind of summarize this babying thing that I say about Lando. Like, Lando's a full-grown adult. He's a professional race driver, a very, very good one, might I add. Very quick. He's in a championship battle, but these things happen. And do you know who it's not? It's not for them to care. It's your championship rival. And if that happens to be your teammate, then so be it. But I think fair play, Oscar. Do you know what? He was the bigger man, and he probably looked at the grand scheme of things and thought, 2 points, it's not worth the aggro. But do you know, when it's at that point, it's like, I'm sure I'm a younger brother, right? So I don't know what it's like to be an older brother, but you're an older brother. I'm sure what Oscar felt like at that point in time was being an older brother. And, you know, like, the little one's kicking off about something, and the older one's just like, do you know what, I don't care, like, they can just have it. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Like, just for peace. And that's not how it should be. It shouldn't be like that.
I think Oscar's conducted himself very well today. You know what? You could tell he was a bit frustrated over the radio at the beginning, but in the interviews I've seen afterwards, he was like, "Yeah, no, it's, you know, it's what it is. It's team orders, and this is how it is, and that's fine. And I understand. You know, Lando was P2 and for the majority of the race, and he conducted himself very well. I think the sad thing today, and look, I know I say that McLaren favour Lando Norris. I still genuinely believe that, and I actually think F1 fans are starting to see that. I've said that for a while, and I've had a lot of people hate on me for that, but I think people are starting to see that. The sad thing for me is actually this type of actions doesn't look great for Lando, because Lando is a very talented driver. He's had a very good race weekend, and actually he deserved that P2 if everything went normal today. So by them doing this, again, this just makes people go, oh, look, they're just trying to do this for Lando Norris. And that's the bit I find also sad, is because Lando Norris, he doesn't need this extra help to try. Do you know what I mean? It feels like they're just trying to support him and get him through, you know, and help him out as much as possible. And it just makes him look bad. And I don't think it's not great for him.
And that's what I was going to say. And I hope this makes the clip, because Lando Norris had no involvement in this, right? We can sit here and say Lando this, Lando that. Lando had no involvement. Lando didn't come over the radio saying, oh, give me that position back. You really screwed me here. Like, he didn't. He was going to have to firm that. And I do believe he would have. I'm sure when it went to debrief for him, he probably was going to kick a few chairs. But it wasn't Lando coming over crying. But we are talking here specifically about team dynamics and sometimes how that looks to us as viewers, and how that also then reflects on the drivers. And I agree with you that this reflects badly on Lando Norris, but it wasn't anything Lando did. But it's just how the team dynamics make the whole scenario look, and Lando doesn't need it. My point is Lando doesn't need babying. No. He's a good race driver, very good. He's quick. He does not need this. And like I say, a lot of people are going to disagree. So we know people who think it's fair, right? We've spoken to people, and we're not sitting here saying our opinion's right, yours is wrong. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but I believe what McLaren did today was not the right thing. I think ultimately they should have brought Lando in first. I don't understand why Lando requested Oscar to come in first.
It made no sense, did it?
I know the commentators were coming over after saying, oh, clearly they were trying to like cover off Charles Leclerc, and it's like, what, you think Lando gave a shit about that? No chance.
And also, Leclerc wasn't going to get Piastri anyway.
No, Piastri could have been on 3 wheels and he wasn't getting overtaken. So, yeah, look, that was probably the most entertaining part in the end of a very, very sleepy Monza Grand Prix. But
just
yeah, I don't want to take anything away from Lando, because I know a lot of people think that we shit on Lando, and I mean, I was disappointed that Lando wasn't able to go and win it, to be fair, because I think there could be an argument that if Max Verstappen was in that McLaren, I don't think anyone would have been winning in a Red Bull, put it that way. But yeah, it's the way the cookie crumbles. It's not going to tarnish it. The same way in which Oscar's win hasn't really been tarnished in Hungary from last year when this happened. But like I said, I just want to end that part with, that left a bad taste in my mouth as well. For me, you know, they screwed Oscar over, but if I was Lando, there's no way I'd be giving that position back.
Quickly, just finishing off on this, and we want to hear from you guys. So if you're watching on YouTube, do drop a comment. If you're listening on Spotify, you can also leave comments on there. So do let us know. You know, Lando, when he went on the podium, seemed, from what it sounded like, that he was getting booed. Do you think what happened today was a reflection on that? And this goes back to what I've said before. What is sad for Lando is the team's actions today have put Lando in a bad spotlight, and that is a reflection on Lando Norris. So for him to go out there today and get booed after what had happened, I feel really sorry for Lando, and I don't think there's any other reason why he got booed. Do you know?
No, I can only imagine that to be the reason. I don't recall him having any incidents with Ferraris or anything, you know, which might be the obvious one. It has to be that, but do you know what I mean? And that's it. What we're saying here is this isn't Lando's fault. This is, the team are creating this, and they need to be a little bit stronger. They need to be a little bit more realistic. Life is not a Disney movie. I sometimes feel like McLaren are living like they're in fucking Frozen or something. Not everything is going to work out perfectly, but you have to accept that you can't operate in this space without that highly competitive edge and that competitive nature. And I think it was just a symptom of them being so nice, to be honest. You know, it was, but ultimately it's not nice, because it's now you screwed Oscar Piastri a little bit for something that happened naturally. And like I said at the start of this, like, Max's reaction pretty much summed up my reaction at the time. Yeah,
I mean, for me, it was spot on. If you don't know what we're talking about, they came over the radio and told Max that the McLaren to swap position back. Oscar was given Lando Norris, and Max basically came over the radio going, just laughing and going, what, because of his slow stop? Basically insinuating that actually, is this what our racing has come to now? That actually we're just giving people their places back if a mistake happens or whatever. So yeah, I think Max summed it up perfectly. And I know there was I have put a clip out already on social media, so go and check it out on there. It's got quite a few people who have agreed with me in the sense of it. I think it was ridiculous. But yeah, do get involved. Do check us out on TikTok. Just finishing on McLaren, I know we've spoken a lot already about them, but generally, I know they weren't the quickest out there, but they had a pretty solid weekend, especially for Lando Norris after Zandvoort last week, coming back after that DNF to pick up a P2 in qualifying, almost a P1. He had a lap record for that very split second until Max Verstappen came through. But you know, Lando Norris came back, and he looked good, didn't he?
Can I just say though, McLaren still had the fastest car this weekend. The difference is that Red Bull had Max Verstappen, and I guess we can move on to Red Bull if you'd like.
Yeah.
How does he do it? How does Max Verstappen do it? Because he's that that car has had its ups and downs this season. I can say with absolute certainty that at no point has it been the quickest car. Now, I don't think McLaren had such an advantage this week that they normally have, or that we normally see them to have. But I do believe they were still the quicker car by, a couple of tenths. But you stick Max Verstappen in a car, a couple of tenths is not going to cut it.
Max was just. It's very hard to say. You kind of run out of words for Max Verstappen because every time you count him out, he comes back with a quality weekend, and he was solid. That qualifying lap was outrageous. I generally thought Lando Norris had it in the bag, but for Max Verstappen to come through and put in a lap like that, and then go out there today in the race and control it. Okay, he got overtaken by Lando, but once he got Lando back, he was in control. He was pulling that 4, 5, 6 second gap, and actually he never looked in doubt, did he? I do like what he said in the cool down room when he saw the collision, I think between, was it Behrman and Sainz, and he said, I did worry that a safety car was going to come out. But no, Max Verstappen this weekend was flawless, and in comparison to his teammate, I mean, look, Yuki Tsunoda ended up finishing P13 today. I mean, what Max Verstappen is doing in that Red Bull is phenomenal, and look, he's the best in the world right now, and we've said that for a long time, but he just keeps delivering, and yeah, he's just what do you say about him?
Yeah, I mean, look, Red Bull's biggest problem persists. The lack of a second driver who is able to score them any points at all. No one expects anyone else to put that car in P1, okay? There's only one man, arguably on the planet, at this point in time who could put that car in P1, and that is Max Verstappen. But if Max Verstappen is able to take it to P1, you have to be getting points. You have to be getting points. And yeah, another disastrous weekend for Yuki Tsunoda, which, he looked really strong. Given the circumstances of how he normally looks in qualifying. But then, it got to a point where he essentially got overtaken on track by a racing pool, of Liam Lawson. I know there's a bit of a collision there. My opinion is that Tsunoda just run him out of room, and I actually think that was fair game. I thought Lawson deserved to make the overtake. I know the sort of two-team dynamic there makes it difficult as well, but being overtaken by a racing bull, it's not good. And if you're a Red Bull fan,
he finished 80 seconds behind Max Verstappen today.
Do you know what I mean? That's just unacceptable. Like, it is, and not if it was a one-off. If this was a one-off, Yuki's had a bad race, shit's happened. It's not a one-off, and I cannot tell you how much I want Yuki Tsunoda to be a successful Red Bull driver, how much I want him to get race wins. But it's not happening, and look, he's not going to lose his seat this season, rightfully so. But I do worry about him. Obviously, there's the rumours of him joining Pierre Gasly at Alpine. We know they had a very good relationship. I think it's fairly safe to say that Yuki's Red Bull career is over. Like I say, he'll get to race for them till the end of the season, but I don't think he'll be remaining there for much longer. And ultimately, you can't blame them. Red Bull need someone in that seat who is going to pick up points.
No, 100% agree with you. One question, just finishing off on Red Bull. Do you think there is any other driver on that grid today that if you put them in that Red Bull, they would have won that race?
No. Oh, I said it. I don't think there's any other driver in the world who would have won that race? Other than Max Verstappen. Look, if Max Verstappen was in a McLaren, he would have won the race by 30 seconds. This wasn't a car win. This was a driver win.
Well, Lauren Mekies said beforehand, didn't he? He said this is Max went with a strategy which the team wasn't planning on going with, and obviously it worked. And we've seen this many times. Max Verstappen is the difference with this car. It's not the car, it is Max Verstappen, and he's the one who takes that team to the next level. And to get the fastest ever lap in F1 history, it's a solid weekend for him. Solid weekend. Where would you like to go to next?
That means we're officially quicker than the W11 now. Widely regarded as the greatest F1 car of all time.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine that's going to happen for a few years, because this car next year, this new era car, is apparently meant to be slower, isn't it?
Probably. They always do something to ruin it.
Right, where should we go to next? Should we go to Kick Sauber? I mean, look, Bortoleto P8 today. Nico unfortunately didn't even start the race, so disappointing weekend for him. But Bortoleto once again picking up 4 points today for Kick Sauber. He's getting consistent, isn't he? They spoke to him. Nico Rosberg spoke to him on the grid before the race, and he just looks like he's building with confidence, and you're seeing that in his racing. The way he was holding off Fernando Alonso today, I know he lost that place in the pit stop, but he was coming out and still going after Alonso. He's looking great.
Yeah, and I'm quite glad to remind everyone that Gabriel Bortoleto was, at the beginning of the season when we made predictions, he was my Rookie of the Year. And, you know, it's going to be close with him and Isaac Hadjar. Isaac Hadjar is out in front at the moment, but I think Gabriel Bortoleto is cooking. He is looking really good, and yeah, I guess look, it probably is no surprise that the two rookies who are in the sport are the two rookies that went head to head in the F2 Drivers' Championship last season. So yeah, really happy for him. I was gutted when he lost that place in the pits, but obviously Fernando then had to retire the car anyway. But yeah, probably a bittersweet weekend for Kick Sauber, but unfortunate for the Hulkenberg thing. But Bortoleto, firstly, no one expected him to be in Q3 anyway. But then to actually basically hold place is great, and he picked up the points, and that's all you can ask for him. That is exactly what we said about Gabriel Bortoleto earlier in the season. We said, look, as one of the rookies, he's going under the radar here because, yeah, he's not getting points, and he hasn't scored any points at this point, I don't believe. But he's not picking up damage. He's not crashing out. You know, he's just driving consistently. He's getting around there. Then all of a sudden, he's hit a turning point, and now the points are starting to come. So, I mean, I'm excited to see what the future holds for him.
No, 100%. Just for you guys at home, I want to hear your views on this. So, rookie so far, and Luke, I want to hear whether you agree with me. So, breaking it down at this moment in time, I would say the rookie of the season so far, and I'll break it down in each one. Isaac Hadjar, Bortoleto, Ollie Behrman, Kimi Antonelli. Have I missed anyone there?
Liam Lawson.
He's not a rookie. Not classing him as a rookie. Out of those four, would you agree with that order?
Yeah, Kimi Behrman is where I think maybe you could.
Do you say Kimi Behrman?
Look, Kim, as in like Kimi Behrman, like like as in two people you could weigh up. Look, I think Kimi's got tougher scrutineering because number one, I guess he had the weight of the world on his shoulders, right? He'd been hyped up so massively. He's filling Lewis Hamilton's shoes, but then not only that, he got to race in a Mercedes, which, you know, won 3 races last year. So he's going to come under tougher scrutineering than someone like an Ollie Behrman who's racing for Haas. But it's no secret that Kimi has struggled and he's looked way off George. But then how much slack do you cut him because he's only 18 and well, maybe 19 now or whatever. I don't know how old he is. But yeah, I don't.
But we've seen,
Kimi,
we've seen younger drivers come in and not dominate, but they've performed right from the word go. Do you know what I mean? We've seen that with the likes of Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton's when they've come in. These drivers have come in and they've performed from the beginning. So I agree. I like
Lewis Hamilton was a bit older though. Lewis was
true.
like 23 when he came into the sport.
True. But people like Max, and I know Max is probably a generational talent who we'll probably never see something like that again. But you know, you've got drivers like Ollie Behrman and that coming in, and they're performing, I would say, a better performance in the cars that they're in compared to someone who's in a Mercedes, who you would be expecting to be picking up more consistent points.
I would say at this point, if I was team principal and I had this list of 4 drivers, and they're like, look, give us the order in which you want these drivers. We'll try and sign him. If we can't get him, we'll get him, and then, you know, so on. My order would be Hadjar, Bortoleto, Behrman, Kimi.
Yeah.
Because
I really want Kimi to do well. I really do. But he is, whether the pressure is too much for him at this moment in time, but when you've got the likes of people like Isaac Hadjar, who is just performing phenomenally. You've got Gabriel Bortoleto in that stake where we never imagined they would do anything this year, picking up consistent points. And you've got Ollie Behrman in a Haas, you know, like, again, very fast driver picking up, you know, okay, he didn't pick up points today, but he's generally consistently picking up points. You would be expecting someone like Kimi Antonelli to pick up points week in, week out. And I don't just mean like the odd 1 or 2 points here, you know, consistently about like P6, P7. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Kimi Antonelli has been off the pace. He'll know that. We all know that. It's also fine to admit. I mean, like, no one's coming here slandering Kimi. But yeah, he'll have his seat for next season, and I think he should, because ultimately Mercedes have to bear the responsibility of the gamble that they took here, right? It's unfair to expect Kimi Antonelli to come into that seat and only give him that one season. Give him next season as well, and then see. But, you know, if you're ranking this season for Kimi Antonelli, it's probably like a C- at the moment.
I would take that. I never even got that, so I'd be well happy with a C-.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Should we talk about Mercedes then?
Yep, talk about Mercedes. Again, look, what was it? P6 and for George Russell, P7 for Kimi Antonelli in qualifying. George Russell P5 in the race, and Kimi Antonelli obviously having that 5-second penalty, picking up a P9. Look, for George, he was in a bit of a race of his own. There wasn't really, you know, at times he was chasing down Leclerc, but he didn't really look under pressure, even from Hamilton behind. But again, how many times have we said this about George Russell? Sometimes he can just be in a race of his own, can't he?
Yeah, he often finds himself there. If he doesn't find himself there, he finds himself somehow mysteriously on the podium. So, yeah, look, another solid weekend from George. I think it's another weekend that proves why I think I might sneeze. Bless me.
Another weekend on why you might sneeze. That's a good one.
God, I got a tickly nose. It's another weekend of why he proves that there's no way Mercedes cannot keep George Russell on. Do you know what I mean? He's a really talented driver, and I still think he's a dark horse for a world championship at some point. I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but yeah, I'm continually impressed by George Russell.
Yeah.
And look, if this was the best, this probably was the best he could extract from the car. and he did it. So that's what you get from George Russell: consistency, and he's always where you need him when you need him there.
100%. Did you hear his interview after? He was just a bit baffled by how Red Bull can get a win like this, and then Mercedes are pretty much nowhere. But then for the last however many weekends, Red Bull have been nowhere, but they're picking up a win. He said he was just really confused by it all, to be honest. But I think we've been like that all year, haven't we? You know, there's cars who are on the podium or whatever. We're kind of like, how did you even get there? You know, and I suppose that is even like that today with Max Verstappen. How on earth did he win that? I'd never have expected him to win that race today. But yeah, going back to Kimi Antonelli, P9, picking up 2 points for the team after a 5-second penalty. It was a poor start for him, really poor start. And I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like he just put it in reverse.
Yep. It was a rough start for Kimi, and it was probably another thing that dented his confidence a little bit. But what can you do? Like, literally, what can you do? He was in that scenario, and yeah,
I'm glad.
there's not too much to say on it. It was a bad start.
I'm glad he picked up points though in his home race, especially after Imola. To then at least have
Yep.
some points in a home race for him, I'm really happy for him for that. So hopefully that will give him
He
a
did
bit of a
make
boost.
the comeback happen.
He did.
You know, he did what he needed to do. Who knows where he could have finished if he actually pulled off the line properly. But yeah, it's one of those things. It happens.
I agree. Right, let's go through some of them who Haas. Ollie Behrman P12 today, Esteban Ocon P15. Again, wasn't really a great weekend for them. I know Ollie Behrman had a 10-second time penalty. I keep doing this every week. So that did drop him down. But yeah, tough weekend for the Haas team.
Haas will have their weekends. It's I think they fall into that category of teams that really confuse us, and I feel like this season has been quite confusing in terms of determining who's going to finish where. And I think other than your sort of common denominator of McLaren always being there or thereabouts, then it's really difficult. You know, there doesn't seem to be a definitive best of the rest this year. It really changes week to week. You know, this weekend, I would say Williams looked as a collective maybe best of the rest, but then obviously you had Fernando Alonso up there, but you did also have Bortoleto, but obviously Hulkenberg far back. That's why I say it as a collective. But yeah, just a a nothing weekend for Haas is, but they have those. Yeah. You know, we'll go to Baku in 2 weeks' time, and they might pick up like a couple of points, and they'll look fairly strong. I feel like, weirdly, this weekend seemed so qualifying dependent.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you may disagree, I feel like that's something that I've never really considered at Monza, where it's never felt like a track where qualifying is so important here. It's always like, okay, you've had a bad quali, this is probably one of the tracks where you can make up for it in the race. And it felt like actually it was a little bit punishing if you didn't qualify where you needed to.
Well, I think what's quite difficult and what it showed today is actually if you qualify in a good position, that makes a massive difference, and that's probably quite evident for most race. But the DRS
that was very Will Buxton of you.
That was. If you qualify first, you have the better chance of winning. But what I mean by is the DRS train, and we've spoken about the DRS train a lot. You look at some of the teams today, literally, I mean, Bortoleto at one point, Crofty, was it Crofty or Ted Kravitz even said, you know, he's literally just ahead of all the DRS trains. That's basically what you saw today. It's difficult to overtake. You know, you've got that long main straight, but other than that, it's quite difficult to overtake. So, I suppose this year has been very much qualifying dependent more than we've seen. I would agree with you on that.
Yeah, I just found it weird. Like, so, you know, a team like Haas where it wasn't the greatest qualifying for them. It was always going to be difficult, and if Lewis Hamilton struggled to get through Fernando Alonso and Gabriel Bortoleto, and it took him his sweet time, and that Ferrari was the quickest car in the straight line along with the Sauber. So if they were struggling, a Haas is going to struggle up against a Williams or a Sauber and vice versa. So yeah, it was just weird because it's not a track that you associate with being so important for qualifying. But like you say, it was DRS Train City, and that made it a bit of a snooze fest. It's funny because they were telling everyone, oh, this is the shortest race we've ever had. But to me, it felt like the fucking longest. I felt like I'd been sitting there watching it for 3 hours. And it was like an hour and 13 minutes.
Yeah, it did feel like it went on for a bit. But obviously no DRS next year with the new era of cars. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that pans out. Let's to quickly touch on Alpine and Aston Martin. So Aston Martin ended up Lance Stroll P18, Fernando Alonso retired, but obviously he did get into Q3. He was looking good up until that point. Did a nice little undercut on Gabriel Bortoleto in the pits. He looked like he was up for some good points today, didn't he?
Yes. Again, Aston Martin are a weird car. Are they quick? Are they slow? Is Lance Stroll useless? Is Fernando Alonso really quick? Like, there's no real way to tell, but Fernando Alonso has got to be one of the unluckiest guys in F1, The guy is fucking cursed. It's incredible. Mate, it's like, I don't know, he's like a walking ball of bad luck, and everything he does just turns to shit, and I don't know why. Like, it's not through fault of his own, but it's like, wow, Aston Martin, he's going to get points, P7 or whatever it was. No, you've had a suspension failure. It's like, that is the story of his career. Is it not?
Did you see that? Like, he went very heavy over that curb, didn't it? And he just buckled.
Yep. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That wouldn't have happened to any other driver, I don't think.
No, only Fernando.
And it wouldn't have happened to Fernando if he was in like P13 or something. It would have been rock solid, trust me. But as soon as he's in for the points, that thing cracked like a fucking what's it. It was just... It's Fernando Alonso's luck. And look, I'm not Fernando's biggest fan, but I can definitely appreciate that he's had some rotten luck over the years.
He's had some very bad luck, yeah. Well, like he said, and we keep bringing this up every now and then, we haven't seen him off the podium, have we?
No, that he cursed himself, to be fair. He let the spirits in. I'm just trying to sort my camera out here because it keeps... There we go. I'm back. That is the
biggest curse of his life, by saying that you won't see me off the podium, and literally we haven't seen him on the podium. So, yeah, he cursed himself there. Alpine, Pierre Gasly P16, Colapinto P17. Obviously, going into this weekend, Pierre Gasly has signed a new contract for Alpine, which I think is brilliant for him. I think it's 2028. But Alpine this weekend were nowhere. They were really nowhere. Both of the cars lapped. It was a tough weekend for them.
They're having too many tough weekends. Yep. We talk about not knowing where cars are going to finish, or what they look like. You can almost guarantee that Alpine will probably be towards the very back of the pack, and it's not good enough. I'm sure it's because they're really focusing on next year, but my God, if they don't come to the 2026 season with a good car, then they have got some serious problems. I'm not saying we need to see Alpine on podiums or winning races, but you expect to see them competing for points week in, week out. And that's where they need to be. That's where they should be. I'm sure that's where Pierre Gasly wants them to be. And that's where Pierre Gasly should be racing. So, yeah, tough weekend, one to forget, but they're probably used to it now. Yeah.
Right, 3 teams left. So we got RBs, Liam Lawson P14, Isaac Hadjar P10, starting from the back of the grid, picking up a point today after difficult qualifying yesterday, going out in Q1, I think he'll be relatively happy with a point, won't he?
Yes, absolutely. You know, uh, again, a point for an RB is a good weekend, right? That is a good weekend for him, off the back of a podium the weekend before, which is an unimaginable weekend for them. Yeah, good, solid weekend, very, very solid, and we love Isaac Hadjar here. I think everyone loves Isaac Hadjar, but he was obviously very, very heated on the Saturday after the qualifying. He seemed particularly angry at Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
I don't know the ins and outs of that completely, but yeah, look, he got his point in the end. I'm sure he will put his feet up this evening and look back at the weekend with a smile on his face.
Yeah, 100%. Williams, Carlos Sainz, P11. Alex Albon, somehow, P7. Carlos Sainz afterwards said, how did Alex Albon get to P7? Tough weekend, another tough weekend for Carlos Sainz, and he's having a lot of those, isn't he? Where Alex Albon is maximising the most out of everything. But Carlos Sainz just doesn't seem to be getting the luck, does he?
No, he don't. And that is it. I don't feel like Carlos Sainz has been like slow necessarily this season. He's had some bad luck. It took him a while to settle in. But I think we see that now that he is pretty settled. I've got to talk about the Behrman Sainz incident, because Ollie Behrman received a 10-second penalty for this.
Harsh.
I think that was very harsh, because where was Ollie supposed to go, right? Carlos Sainz turned in on him. In my opinion, and yes, he was ahead, but where is Ollie Behrman supposed to go? How can Ollie Behrman, he was ahead, but not by a lot, right? It was probably Ollie Behrman's front wheel was to Carlos Sainz's side pod, like the back end of the side pod. Even if Ollie Behrman slaps on his brakes, all he's going to do is lock up and go into the side of Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz had to be more aware there. He needed to leave him more room. Yet somehow Ollie Behrman gets a 10-second penalty for it.
Which is weird, because a week ago we were defending Carlos Sainz, weren't we, with his collision with Liam Lawson. So, for me today, that it was just a harsh penalty. Carlos Sainz, he knows that Behrman is there. It's but he's just going. I don't know why he's going in, and I don't think there's been any punishment, because obviously the runoff road, he completely just bypassed that, and then earlier in the race. So it'll be interesting to hear if there's anything from that point of view. But yeah, for me, Ollie Behrman, even if he backed off, they would have collided anyway. So yeah, I do think it was a harsh 10-second penalty for him.
Yeah, there was genuinely nothing he could do. Carlos did not need to hit the apex there. He could have hung it around the outside, and realistically, the nature of that corner, he would have overtaken him inherently, because Ollie Behrman would have had to slow down a lot more, because his corner would have been so much tighter. And then Carlos Sainz has the inside for the second part of that chicane. And yeah, but funny decisions, they like to make them.
Yep. Alex Albon, though, another 6 points for Williams. Very, very controlled race, really. It was a brilliant race for him.
He must be getting close to Kimi Antonelli now. Or am I being ridiculous here?
What, with regards to the results?
Points.
So yeah, Kimi Antonelli is on 66 points. Alex Albon is above him with 70.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, did that happen last week then?
No, it happened today. Because I think last week they're both on 64 points.
Oh, you see? I tell you what, if Alex Albon finishes ahead of a Mercedes this year, that is some season, and we've got to credit him massively, because that is some achievement.
He's been solid, and there's always these question marks when he came into the season. Can he go up against Carlos Sainz? Well, he has done, and he's proved that. And actually, he's delivering great results for the team.
Yeah, that they will be very happy with how his season is going. I'm sure he will as well. And like I say, everyone did the comparison that way, didn't they? It was never. I don't know if Carlos Sainz will be able to hack it up against Alex Albon. It was always, will Alex Albon be able to hack it against Carlos Sainz? Yeah. Well, yeah, like Matt said, I think he's proven that actually, yes, he can. And this is not to pit Carlos versus Alex. I just think Williams are a team with two very good drivers. And I think the future is still looking very bright for them. So Alex Albon being ahead of Kimi Antonelli on points is just incredible.
Yeah, very, very solid for him.
Who would have thought, by the way, let's roll it back, 2021, not that long ago in the grand scheme of things, 4 years ago, a Williams is finishing ahead of a Mercedes in the championship. That is nuts.
You never thought that would happen.
No.
I always thought Williams would come along, and always when they got James Vowles, I always thought they're going in the right direction. But no, to be ahead of one of the Mercedes, I didn't see that coming.
No, it's Jimmy Vowles' plan is coming together nicely.
100%. Right, just finishing off for Ferrari. Their home race, the Tifosi out in force. Mate, we've got to go next year. Like, it just looks epic.
I would like to go to Monza a lot. I've got the T-shirt all ready for it, so
I'm actually thinking of copying the blue shirt. The blue shirt looks sick.
It does look quite nice.
Yeah.
They did a white one, didn't they?
They got the white one. I do like that one as well, but the blue one, it looks pretty sick. So, but look, it's difficult. No Ferrari on the podium, but P4 for Charles Leclerc, P6 for Lewis Hamilton. Lewis obviously had that 5-place grid penalty for today. I think he maximised the most he could out of that. I don't think there was much more he could have done today. He looked quick in the first stint. But like you say, once you got into the DRS train, it was pretty much nowhere for him to go. So a P6, 8 points, his first home race with the Tifosi, I think he'd be relatively happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the grid penalty was going to be tough. One thing we should discuss is why did the team make Lewis give Charles a tow yesterday?
It made no sense to me. I was thinking to myself, surely you want Lewis up higher up the grid because there's less places to drop. But
yeah,
it didn't make any sense to me. No.
That's not a Lewis favoritism thing, because we're Lewis fans. Like, if Charles had a 5-place grid penalty, why does it make sense for him to tow Lewis? It doesn't. Unless they were like, I don't know, they like trying to go for the pole, but then you really were sacrificing one driver. Like, it was bizarre. I mean, it was a bit Ferrari of Ferrari, really.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to me. But I think overall, Charles was in a race of his own. Had some good overtakes at the beginning with Oscar Piastri, but that McLaren was just a bit too quick for the Ferrari. But I think generally, Ferrari, especially after last weekend in Zandvoort, I think will be happy with a good amount of points taken home.
Yeah, look, how some of the weekends have gone this season for Ferrari, when they haven't double DNF'd like last week, I feel like this could have been a lot worse. And ultimately, Charles Leclerc placed the car as best he could. Realistically, Lewis Hamilton would have finished 5th had he have not had the 10-place grid penalty, the 5-place grid penalty. But he finished 6th anyway. Yeah, I think that Tifosi will be okay with that. It's fine. They made the best of a bad situation. Ultimately, sometimes it's just impossible to win. Yeah. The only possibility in which Ferrari could have won that race is if 2 McLarens blew up and Max Verstappen wasn't conceived.
True. There was only one person who was winning today, though. That was Max Verstappen. Just finally finishing off on the driver standing. So Oscar Piastri, 324 points. Lando Norris is 31 points behind on 293. Max Verstappen is still third with 230. George Russell in P4, then Leclerc, then Hamilton, then Alex Albon, then Kimi Antonelli, Isaac Hadjar and Nico Hulkenberg. So when you then look at the team standings, so in Baku, McLaren can win the constructors. This is how mad it is. They're currently on 617 points. Ferrari are P2 with 280 points. 20 points behind them is Mercedes, and then RB is fourth, Williams fifth, Aston Martin, Racing Bulls, Kick Sauber, Haas and Alpine are last. Isn't it mad that McLaren can win a title at Baku?
How many races left are there?
There is 8, I believe.
Oh, I was gonna. If it was 10, I was thinking like, could they could be on for 1,000 points.
Oh, yeah, 8 races. Yeah.
But they could be on for near 900 points here, which.
Mental.
What the fuck, basically. But yeah, super impressive. You know, this is McLaren's achievement, and they started off this era of cars as possibly one of the worst teams, and now they've turned it around and they are the dominant team. So yeah, very happy for McLaren. It's well deserved. It's very impressive, and yeah, let's just hope they give us a good drivers battle.
Yeah, no. Right, that is the end of the podcast. Have I missed anything? Don't think I've missed anything.
No, I think the only thing you might be missing is you're not here next week.
No. That's changed. I am here next week. I'll tell you off camera, but I am here next week.
Okay, nice. Matt's been dumped, so he's not going on a romantic getaway.
I haven't been dumped. But I am now here, so I can film next week.
Okay, we will be here reporting live after Baku. But then we're not here the following week.
Baku is
because I'm not here. Well, I fucked that. So basically, what's going to happen is we are gonna be here next week, looking towards Baku. But then after Baku, on the 21st of September, I will not be here. So there will be no podcast on the 22nd of September. Or if you're watching on YouTube, that'd be the 23rd of September. But we will be then back the week after for... Should I see if there's a race? If you're wondering what I'm looking at on YouTube, by the way, I've got this little calendar with all the F1 races on, which my girlfriend bought for me. Makes up for breaking my laptop. Singapore.
Yep.
On the 5th of October. Banging.
Love Singapore.
Yes, I am well up for that. So, apologies for the chaotic episode and not having a mic, but I do kind of have a mic. I hope the sound is okay. It is what it is. We'll be back to normal next week because I need a laptop because it's my job, really.
What an outro. Right, guys, that is the end of the podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Do get involved. Do check us out on all social media. If you're watching on YouTube, do drop a comment. Do let us know. Really appreciate all of you. So, and the interaction on YouTube over the last few weeks. So keep smashing that. Check us out on all social media. Check us out on Spotify as well. And we'll be back next week previewing Baku. But yeah, have a great week and we shall see you later. Bye-bye.